else like that. You want the whole population to eventually get that trait. So yeah, absolutely, I could see this as an argument, or furthering this research to try to make that argument that we should focus more on other things than just predator control. Yeah.
As far as you had different responses to predators between leopards and the white-eye, and you offered a couple hypotheses for what could be happening on Hawaii that could explain that, and I was wondering if you would consider that it might be something on the mainland where these birds come from. I don't know if there be different predators that they are exposed to there.
Right.
And then also just the fact that they're two different species, that they have different behaviors that will cause you to predict that they respond to predators differently if one's more group living.
Yeah.
A lot of different hypotheses there.
Right. Yeah, there is a lot. So these birds are both from Asia, the Japanese white-eye, of course, from Japan. And I've actually seen a video of a snake at a Japanese white-eye nest in Japan, and they responded using, to my ear, identical calls as they get angry towards even people around the nest. And you can see them just kind of yelling a lot, just like they would towards, if they did respond towards the rat model in my trials. So I think their actual responses in Japan, the white-eyes, is towards snakes. Like they do have them, and that is one of their main nest predators there. For the leothrics, I don't know that, but I do know that in Asia there are a lot of snakes and a lot of snakes that live in trees. So I would expect, just like everywhere else, that is one of their main predators. One thing that could influence this, though, is the founder effect. So we don't know if for some reason the original birds that they brought to the islands, if a couple of those or some of those didn't for some reason have good responses towards, or what we would think of as a good response towards predators. And so if that is the case, then maybe the birds we introduced to Hawaii just didn't have as much of a response towards snakes to start with. So yeah, and it's a little ambiguous exactly where these birds came from. A lot of them that were brought there were brought indirectly from those places. So some straight from Asia, some were cage birds that have been caught in the wild, but then brought to Hawaii from San Francisco. Yeah, so there's a lot of unknowns about where exactly they came from and how that might impact their response. Yeah.
So I love the idea of the koa restoration sites being good for birds. And so I know Leva Petchar found that a Cupola owl loved the restoration sites.
Yeah.
You showed that there's something going on with Elepaio. You also found that there were like 92 white-eye nests in the restoration versus 36 or something like that.
Totally.
So the idea that the restoration site may actually be higher quality than the reference site.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you have other data, of other literature, how much support could there be for that statement?
Yeah. Well, we have sort of count data, the density data, but what we don't have a good handle on is the density of nesting in these places. We weren't doing systematic searches, and because we weren't focused on one species, we didn't find every territory. We don't know if we found every territory's nest. So it's a little hard to just actually compare the nest numbers between those sites. And so, yeah, I don't know that my data could specifically address fully that, whether there actually could be doing better in these koa sites. I think, yeah, the Elepaio maybe is, but their overall nesting success is the same for at least the species I looked at. So that's why I say, really, if their nest success is pretty similar, then you'd have to go on to like our nest carrying capacity idea and figure out, if if indeed there are, more nests in the koa for some of these species than others. But I think it is a real possibility for some of them. Just being out in the field, white Elepaio were, like you said, I don't have a measurement of this, but just there seemed to be a lot more of them packed into the koa sites than what we could find in the restoration sites. So that was another where we didn't have as many nests in the reference site. And I would chalk that up to there just not being as many birds. But we we don't have a hard metric for that, because that's not really how we design that study.
Okay, I'm gonna have to call it at this point, so we don't have George in this.